People think betrayal begins with a knife. Mine began with a kiss on the forehead. My name is Ava. I'm 38 years old. I built my own wellness company from scratch in years of blood, burnout, and belief. My name was on the patent, the trademarks, the articles. Every scent, every bottle, every ritual in our product line carried my vision. But success doesn't always protect you from sabotage. Sometimes it invites it. My husband, Dean, came into my life when the business was already blooming. He was kind, charming, and supportive, or so I thought. He said he loved how brilliant I was. He said he was proud to be the man beside me. But over time, his praise began to twist. You're overworking yourself. You should let me help with the finances. You've been acting paranoid lately. I didn't realize then, but those weren't observations. They were the first cracks in the gaslight. Dean didn't need to push hard. Just a whisper here, a seed of doubt there. He started suggesting I take breaks more often. Let me handle the accountants, he said. You need to focus on your health. At first, it felt sweet, caring. I even joked that he was my business bodyguard. But soon, I stopped receiving direct updates from my CFO. Dean began handling my calls. You were napping, he'd explain. Didn't want to wake you. Then came the missed meetings, emails I never saw. Decisions made in my name. I thought I was burning out. That maybe I really wasn't thinking straight anymore. That was exactly what Dean wanted. Because while I was questioning myself, he was preparing to erase me. My closest friend, Laura, visited one afternoon and found me crying over a misplaced email. It's probably in your spam, she said gently. Dean cut in. She's been really forgetful lately. We're seeing someone about it. I froze. Seeing someone? That was news to me. Later that night, Dean brought it up casually. Maybe you should talk to someone, just to be safe. You seem fragile. And then, as if it had all been pre-decided, he produced the name of a specialist, a private psychiatrist. I laughed it off, but a chill clung to me for hours. Fragile. That word would return again and again. The first time Dean used the word unwell to describe me, it wasn't to me, it was to a board member. I found out by accident. I walked into the kitchen while he was on speakerphone. She's been unstable lately. Stress, probably. I'm managing things until she's better. My name, my company, my work. And he had reduced me to a liability. When I confronted him, his reaction was coldly rehearsed. I'm trying to protect you, Ava. Don't turn this into a fight. I should have walked away then. But when love has been weaponized, you don't always see the blade until it's too late. I had a panic attack in the middle of the night. Not because of Dean, because of everything. The fog in my brain. The confusion, the constant second guessing. I couldn't tell if I was exhausted or losing my mind. Dean called the psychiatrist the next morning without asking me. She's had an episode, he said. Episode. That word wrapped around me like a cage. The psychiatrist arrived at our home, evaluated me for 30 minutes, and recommended temporary supervised care. I didn't fight it. Because I thought it would help. Because I still trusted Dean. God help me, I still trusted him. The hospital wasn't dark or cold. It was soft, pastel, sterile. But no color could hide what it really was. A place you were sent when no one believed you. Dean visited twice. Each time, he brought flowers and whispered, just rest. Don't worry about anything. Each time, I believed him a little less. The nurses were kind. But kind in the way you are to someone you've already labeled broken. I tried to explain, but it didn't matter what I said, because my husband had already told them everything they needed to hear. 3 weeks in, I was finally given access to my own case notes. I wasn't supposed to, but a new nurse made a mistake and left my folder open on the desk. Paranoia, delusions of betrayal, psychosis likely triggered by work stress. I almost laughed. Dean had written the script, and they had all performed it perfectly. It wasn't just that he gaslit me. It was that he'd authored a new version of me and handed it to strangers in white coats. And I had no voice in it. Not yet. They didn't allow phones, no email, no direct contact with the outside world. But they did give me a notebook. They thought it would help me process. So I used it. Not to journal my feelings, but to document everything. Dates, conversations, behaviors, names of staff, medications. Every time Dean visited, I recorded what he wore, how long he stayed, what he said. It wasn't therapy. It was evidence. Because something deep inside me knew I wasn't crazy. But someone wanted me to be seen that way. Laura, my best friend, wasn't allowed to visit. Dean said I needed uninterrupted care. But Laura was relentless. She left voicemails, sent letters, even showed up at the gates of the facility demanding proof I was okay. One nurse finally broke protocol and handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was a photo of me and Laura from 3 years ago, laughing, wine glasses raised, mid-toast. On the back, she'd written, "You're not alone. I'm still here. And I know something's wrong." I stared at those words for hours. And that's when I started planning my way out. I began cooperating perfectly. No outbursts, no questions, no resistance. I played the role Dean had written for me until the doctor began to lower his guard. And once he did, I asked the one thing that changed everything. "Can I prove I'm of sound mind with testing?" He looked intrigued. "You'd agree to that?" I nodded. Of course, I want to be well. What I wanted was documentation, proof that I was not delusional, that I was mentally stable. He scheduled the tests, and I started sharpening my memory like a blade. The psychological evaluations weren't easy, but I embraced them with the calm focus of someone who had everything to lose. Every question, every puzzle, every emotional response, I gave them exactly what they needed to see: clarity, resilience, coherence. By the third session, the psychiatrist's tone had shifted. "You're remarkably self-aware," he said, watching me carefully. "Most patients don't respond like this." "I told you," I whispered, almost too softly. "I'm not sick." He didn't respond, but I could see in his eyes the first flicker of doubt. It was small, but it was mine. Her name was Nurse Margot. She had soft eyes and a silence that made you feel safe. One evening, as she was changing my meds, she whispered, "You don't belong here." I didn't react. She continued, "Your husband's been too involved. We see this sometimes. Women locked away for convenience." I met her gaze. "Can you help me?" She didn't say yes. But the next day, I found a photocopy in my food tray in my medical report, signed and stamped. No signs of psychosis. Cognitive function intact. I folded it, slid it into the lining of my slipper, and slept for the first time in weeks. Margot kept helping in small, invisible ways. She made sure I had access to my file folder once a day, just long enough for me to study it, memorize it, correct the lies. And then the big one. She whispered, "There's a group discharge review next month. If you're still stable, they can't keep you here. A month. 30 days to play their game. To become what they needed to see while building the truth in silence." I tore pages from my notebook and flushed the rest. The lies were gone. All that remained was the plan. Dean's visits became less frequent, but more suspicious. He started asking questions. "What are they telling you? Have you been writing? Do you remember why you're here?" I smiled, nodded, acted foggy. It scared him. He didn't know what I knew. He didn't know I had my medical report. He didn't know Margot was watching him. He didn't know Laura had finally gotten through to someone. He thought he still controlled the game. But he'd forgotten one thing. I wasn't the same woman he tried to bury. It came faster than I expected. The review board sat across from me, calm and clinical. They asked questions about my routine, my understanding of my diagnosis, my goals post-release. I answered each one with quiet precision. Then came the moment I had waited for. "We find no medical reason to continue supervised care. Miss Clark, you're free to go." I didn't smile. I simply asked, "Will that be documented?" They nodded. And just like that, with a stamped file in my hand and fire in my lungs, I walked out of that facility, not just free, but armed. The sunlight stung my eyes as I stepped outside. 3 months locked away, and the world felt foreign, but I didn't tremble. I didn't cry. I was free. I took a cab to the only person I trusted, Laura. She opened the door with tears already in her eyes. "Emily?" she gasped, pulling me into a hug. "You made it." I nodded, clutching the folder of my discharge papers like it was a shield. "I'm not just back," I said softly. "I'm gonna burn him down." We didn't celebrate. There was too much to do. Instead, we sat at her kitchen table, and for the first time, I told her everything. No more secrets. No more silence. The plan began that night. We started small: bank statements, property records. Laura was meticulous. She worked in finance, and she knew how to follow the money. And what we found was worse than I feared. Dean had sold one of our joint properties without telling me. He'd opened new accounts, hidden assets, transferred money to shell companies with names I didn't recognize. It was financial betrayal, fraud, but it was also proof. "I knew he was preparing for this," I said, gripping the printouts. "He planned my disappearance like a business deal." Laura just looked at me. "Then let's make sure it bankrupts him." We didn't stop at finances. I hired a private investigator, quiet, efficient, expensive. He dug into Dean's phone records, his real estate dealings, even his late-night meets. One name came up again and again: Renee, a younger woman, a paralegal, working at the law firm Dean had used to change our will. The pieces were falling into place. Renee wasn't just a fling, she was the replacement. The woman he planned to build his new life with. Using my money. I didn't cry. I just said, let them plan their future. I'll be the storm they never saw coming. It took weeks, but we got it. A copy of the revised will signed while I was locked away. I read it 3 times before speaking. He'd listed me as medically incapacitated. He'd appointed himself sole executor, and in the event of my death or permanent hospitalization, everything went to him. My business shares, my savings, even my grandmother's house. It was legal theft. And now I had it in writing. "This is enough to destroy him," Laura whispered. But I shook my head. "No, it's enough to start." I began reaching out carefully, quietly. Friends, former colleagues, even his mother. "Oh, Emily, we thought you needed space. Dean said you were not well." Every word they spoke was laced with pity and confusion. And I let them talk. Then I sent them copies of the discharge report, copies of the will, the bank transfers. The lies. It started like whispers, then grew into phone calls, then into silence, his silence. Because Dean had spent months crafting a version of me that was weak, unstable, forgettable. But now they saw the truth. And the real Emily was just getting started. It started with a knock. Dean wasn't expecting me. Why would he? He still thought I was tucked away in a hospital bed, sedated and forgotten. When he opened the door and saw me standing there calm, collected, eyes locked on his, he went pale. "Emily," he stammered. How did you?" I walked out. I said, with my mind fully intact. "Can you say the same?" He tried to usher me in, but I refused. "I'm not here to talk. I'm here to warn you. The paper trail? It leads straight to you, and I'm giving you one chance to fix what you broke. Before I make it public." His charm cracked. The panic behind his eyes surfaced. "Emily, please, you're upset. We can talk about this privately." I leaned closer. "No, Dean. The time for privacy ended the moment you sold my life behind my back." The next morning, my lawyer filed a petition to revoke the revised will on grounds of coercion and fraud. We presented medical documentation confirming I was never mentally unfit. Dean received the summons by hand. By noon, his lawyer had called mine in a panic. But I didn't stop there. I filed a restraining order, froze joint accounts, and publicly announced my return to the board of my own company. He had stolen my name, my money, my voice. Now I was taking all three back. The first tabloid article appeared within a week. CEO's wife returns from hospital. But was she ever sick? Social media caught fire. People started asking questions. Why did he lie? Why did he claim I was unstable? And who was the woman seen leaving his penthouse last weekend? Dean's image, once polished and admired, began to crumble. His firm issued a statement. His investors pulled back. And the press camped outside his office. Meanwhile, I walked freely, head held high, not as a victim, but as the woman who refused to vanish. One evening, I got a call from someone I hadn't expected, Renee. Her voice was low, shaken. "I didn't know, Emily. I thought you were gone." I said nothing. Let the silence press against her conscience. "I didn't know what he did to you, but I saw the paperwork. I think he used me too." I met her 2 days later in a quiet cafe. She looked tired, worn down by guilt. "I have access to everything," she said. "His firm, his files, emails. If you want to bring him down, I can help." I nodded. Because sometimes justice requires unexpected allies. With Renee's help, we uncovered everything. Emails between Dean and his lawyer discussing the will before I was even admitted. Payments to offshore accounts. Photos of Dean and Renee together before he claimed I'd lost my mind. The betrayal was deeper than I imagined. But now it was documented, organized, ready to be released. And so I prepared my final weapon, the truth, wrapped in evidence, tied with calm fury, and aimed at the man who thought he had erased me. I stood before a room full of reporters, not in tears, not broken, but radiant, unshakable. "My name is Emily," I began, and I was declared mentally unfit by the man who vowed to love me. He did it to take my fortune, my freedom, and my name. But I am here to reclaim all three. Gasps rippled through the room. Then silence. Then flashes, cameras firing. The truth was out. And the world finally heard me speak. Dean's world unraveled overnight. His firm dropped him. His assets were frozen, Renee testified. The investigator provided statements. My will was restored, my accounts returned, and Dean? He was charged with fraud, false institutionalization, and financial abuse. The man who had tried to erase me was now the one being removed from power, from society, from control. He wasn't a husband. He was a con, and everyone saw it. I returned to my grandmother's house, my quiet sanctuary. I walked barefoot on the old wooden floors, sat by the window where I used to dream, not of revenge, but of peace. And for the first time in years, I felt it. The echoes of betrayal didn't sting. They reminded me how far I'd come. I wasn't just free. I was whole. I reopened my childhood education center, named it Phoenix Academy, a tribute to rising from the ashes. Parents, friends, strangers sent messages of support. They weren't just cheering for my comeback. They were inspired by it. I shared my story on podcasts and interviews at conferences, not for sympathy, but to remind others, silence is not weakness. And truth, no matter how buried, always rises. Dean requested a meeting before his sentencing. Curious, I agreed. He sat across from me in an orange jumpsuit, eyes hollow. I stood up, leaving him with his regrets. No anger, no hatred. Just finality. Because I hadn't just survived the storm. I had become it, and I walked away stronger than ever, never to be silenced again. If you like this video, please comment and subscribe.